And welcome back to the Press Start Podcast. This is episode number 20, and I'm your host, Vic, aka Mr. Never Chillin'. And of course, I'm joined today by my absolutely outstanding co host, Roger.
Hey guys, how you doing today?
So, Roger, man, what you been playing lately? I know we missed out on an episode last week, obviously, because I went to the Washington Redskins football game. So, what you been playing over the past
Yeah.
2 weeks, I guess I should say.
So I've been digging in a little bit in some of my visual novel games that I've been playing. My friend had gifted me recently a game that came out kind of in 2019, 2020 time frame, World of Horror, and it's a small indie game. Developer has kind of been has been gone for almost a year now, and I think a lot of people are speculating maybe the developer had died. But it's a kind of Call of Cthulhu-esque game with a lot of different paths and a full modding community as well. So if you really like the game as a base game, there's actually a huge community that is out there to help expand upon and make new stories, even though the developer seems to be gone. I've also been playing some Valorant this past 2 weeks, and I've also been in Graveyard Keeper, small game, small indie game. Uh, Kind of really a really stressful game in my opinion because it's like there's so many things to do. I feel like I don't have enough time because by the time I get done with the stuff I wanted to do in one day of the game, I'm already halfway, through the next day, and I'm like, oh god, I'm behind. So other than that, nothing really special, nothing new. I did beat a game 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago now. I can't remember what I beat. It's been so while. It's been so long.
Right. Yeah. Speaking of beating, like games being beaten up, if anybody wants to join our Discord channel, definitely check us out. We or send us a message. We'll invite you to the Discord channel because we also keep track of me and Roger's games that we've been beating over the past year or so. So it'd be pretty cool to see, um, just different games we're playing and beating and whatnot. So definitely hit us up for sure. But
So Vic, what have you been playing? What have you been up to?
Yeah, so over the last 2 weeks, I've just been playing, honestly, a lot of Valorant. I just been playing a lot of Death's Door as well. I'm trying to get through that game because, man, this game got me hooked. Like, I just wanted to keep playing. Like, even yesterday, I hopped on for like, what, 10 minutes, 15 minutes before we hopped into Valorant. I was just like, fuck it. Let me just play a little bit more. Like, I haven't had a game that had me hooked like that where I wanted to play in little increments, even if I could. Even like, because
Yeah.
I've beaten a lot of games this year, and not many of them had me where like, oh, I can hop in for a few minutes and play a little bit, beat the game a little bit more. Where this game I can, and it's really enjoyable, and like everything you do in that game is like rewarding and satisfying. Like literally everything. Like even as I'll die repetitively to the same thing, same boss, same enemy. And I'm like, man, I'm gonna get this shit. Like it's that satisfying when you actually beat them and you move on to the next part of the game. You're just like, yes, let's go. So I love that game. I love that game how it brings out that kind of emotion out of me. So I'm definitely looking
Yeah.
forward to beating it for sure. But last night I did download and started playing the Call of Duty Vanguard beta since it is open. I think it closes and it ends in 3 days here. So I'm actually going to probably hop onto that tonight again. I'm still getting a feel for it. Again, like we talked about, I'm not too big into World War II shooters anymore. And this game, granted, it has a good feel to it, but there's a lot of issues with it. I see already, like the visuals of the game, like being able to see the enemy is really difficult in some maps and certain parts of every map too. So I'm just like, eh. So it definitely makes it tough. But other than that, man, I've just been chilling and whatnot, been watching football and of course just working. So, but nonetheless, let's get into our gaming topics this week. We don't have too much to get into, but I think we said got some good content. I think we're just going to go ahead and start off here with our recap of the PlayStation Showcase. First up was God of War Ragnarok. What was your thoughts on this?
So I'm definitely interested in the Norse mythology. Definitely surrounded around God of War. I never actually got to play the previous God of War,
Mhm.
where you kind of find him taking care of his son, in the far north. The freezing far north. And this game to me shows kind of a beautifully well driven story built game. Like there are a lot of the community has noticed small changes over time where, like, for example, you went out to help teach your son how to shoot, how to hunt a deer. In this game, he's coming back while you're sitting there sharpening an axe or whatever inside wherever you're living. He's bringing a dead deer in, getting ready for dinner kind of thing. you're watching the development of these characters from one game to the next. It doesn't feel disjointed like they do sometimes with or TV shows or other games. Like, you watch a TV show and they're like, "Oh, we just wrote off this character because, we didn't want to pay him this year." With a game, you can kind of say, "Well, we have this character and we can watch him progress and move forward." It's a little sad to hear though that this is the last God of War game in the Viking style aesthetic in the Norse mythology. So, but we do get to see a lot of cool characters. The community is definitely not excited in some aspects because we see people like Thor, for example, and it's kind of more of a mythological Thor as opposed to the Thor we know and love from, say, Marvel Comics.
Right.
So it is definitely a culture shock to some people, but I'm definitely excited. If I can find a PS5, I might actually be getting it just so that I can play, God of War, and then God of War Ragnarok.
Right. Yeah, I 100% agree because I have the original God of War sitting right here next to me on my shelf. That's what I was just looking at while you were talking to verify if I actually do have it, but never played it. I have a PS4, never played it, and it's one of those games that I've missed out on. So, but yeah, I definitely want to dive into that one first before Ragnarok comes out, because my guess is this game will probably launch obviously in 2022, with the rest of the gaming industry apparently. But this one here, Ragnarok, seems pretty cool. It takes a few years after the 2018's God of War, and this
Yeah,
like kind of explores like Arceus's like curiosity and what it and wants to explore like the different meanings of becoming like Loki or being Loki and like having that heritage and stuff. So that'll be pretty cool to see how that all plays out in the story. But yeah, I mean the game looks phenomenal. The PS5 is going to push its limits, and I'm really excited. But another game that got us all hyped here was Marvel Spider-Man 2. Man, when that trailer dropped, I mean, there was a bunch of other trailers that dropped before it, which we're going to cover here. But when this one dropped and then the ending with Venom, I was just like, "Yo, we're finally getting that crossover!" And like most of these games are part of the MCU, like the universe, the actual canon stuff. So this will
yeah,
be our first look at the crossover between Spider-Man and Venom. Which the new Spider-Man movie's coming out, the new Venom movie's coming out. So maybe they already
it's
talks
it's
where they're the
perfect
move.
time.
Yeah, it's perfect timing to see it in the game in the gaming media, but I think they're also going to have a movie or potentially a TV show where they have Venom and Spider-Man their own show together, their own movie together, and see how that plays out. Because as we know it, Venom is like an anti-hero. Like he's not like a bad guy, but he's also not a good guy either. He plays that
Yeah.
gray line. So
Well,
yeah,
and that's the thing we deal with Spider-Man a lot. Spider-Man has a lot of anti-heroes that he deals with. For example, you've got Venom, you've got Deadpool. These are people that Spider-Man is like towing the line between what is good and bad. Where do
mhm,
you draw the line? Because, like, for example, Batman, his idea is you do not kill, you always bring the bad guy in. And you have like Deadpool, for example, he's dealing with Spider-Man who's like, well, you capture the bad guys, you tie him up, that's it. Deadpool's like, I'm gonna put a bullet between their eyes, and
right.
that's it. And Venom's like, I'm gonna rip them apart, I'm gonna kill them. And Spider-Man's like, no, you can't do that. So it's always definitely one of those cool characters where it kind of puts a character's morals to the test. And
Right,
I'm really excited to see how this Spider-Man game goes because we're dealing with Marvel Spider-Man 2, so it is Spider-Man,
right.
but it has Venom in it. So are we gonna play as Venom? Are we gonna play as Spider-Man? Are we gonna play as both?
Right, and also
We're
from
gonna
the
fight
trailer,
him,
we
not fight him.
well, in the trailer, we also seen Miles Morales as Spider-Man in there too, so you got 2
Yep.
Spider-Mans and Venom, like, this game has an overload of, like, fan service, like, and this game is
Hmm.
gonna have really high expectations, and I hope this game does not fall flat. I hope this game does not be
Yeah.
super anticipated and it's shitty. I'd be really pissed off, but Insomniac Games has never really failed at any of their games, so
The last one was an amazing game too. Don't get me wrong. The last Spider-Man was crisp, clean, and on the PS5, it's only going to make this game more aesthetically pleasing and probably a lot more fluid.
right. I mean, look what we got from Spider-Man Miles Morales, the PS5 launch title, basically. That game
Yeah,
looked phenomenal in there, and it just built off of what the original Spider-Man did, and
yeah,
it was really cool to see. But another game from the Marvel universe is Wolverine. This one came out of left field. No one was anticipating it. It was not leaked. It was not mentioned. Nowhere in the media, and it goes. I was like, "Yo, Spider-Man trailer." I don't know how it's a Spider-Man trailer. I was like, "This is Spider-Man." Wolverine's claws come out at the end of the trailer, and we're like, no, no way. So this is awesome to see now that Wolverine is starting to get his introduction into the Marvel universe. I think this will be
Yeah.
his first
Well,
doorway, and then we'll see him in new movies and TV shows hopefully in the coming days because
yeah,
Disney bought
especially
them out.
after, yeah, because let's be honest here. We've got to take into account the greater storyline for Wolverine. He's dead in current storylines. The most
Yeah, with
recent movie
Logan.
was
Yeah,
Logan,
yeah,
2017. He's sorry, spoiler, but he's dead. So it gives Disney and Marvel a
he's
way
dead,
to
but she's not dead
finally.
because
She's not dead,
you
yes,
got the female version of
correct.
Wolverine is now.
But then we can't reboot Wolverine if he's dead, you know.
Right.
So we've definitely got to look at the fact that if we're gonna reboot Wolverine, now's our chance, and let's get a game in as well, because it seems like Marvel's really trying to tap into
All of their
getting as many
assets.
games. Yeah, like, we've got the Guardians of the Galaxy game coming out. We've
Mhm.
got Spider-Man. We've got Spider-Man 2. We've got Miles Morales. We've got now Wolverine.
We got
We've
Midnight Sun,
got
what we talked about a couple weeks ago.
yeah, and then we also have the games that did flop, but like I think Marvel
Marvel
at this point
Avengers.
is let's not even talk about it, you know. But we're throwing the I think at this point Marvel is just throwing a net out there to try and catch as much money as they can with these titles, and this could be a great reboot. You know, it really depends on the developer of the game itself.
Right, for sure.
And
Yeah,
and the last time we had a Wolverine game was in 2009, so
it's
we
definitely
really
been a while.
haven't seen Wolverine in a while.
Right, and this one here is also going to be a PlayStation exclusive, of course, because being made by Insomniac Games, and
Yes.
so I mean expectations again are going to be really high. This game I probably don't see coming out until 2022, 2023 time frame. They didn't really give us anything. It was kind of more of like a teaser trailer, more or
Yeah.
less just like, hey, Wolverine's coming out. All right,
Here's some
cool.
claws.
Yeah, super. Let's build the hype train. Let's get that going. But the
Yeah.
trailer that got me hooked, that made me turn on watching the PlayStation event, because I wasn't planning on watching it live, was when I was on Twitter and I was like, no way, turning it on. Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republic remake is coming out. It is officially announced. We got the little teaser trailer with Revan, and that blew my mind. I'm super stoked for this. What's your thoughts on this before I dive into it any further?
So I'm excited as long as it stays true to what Knights of the Old Republic was
Right.
as a title, as a game. You know, that sort of D&D style RPG. You've got the classic RPG elements of, building your kit, building your character's skills, good versus evil, being able to decide who you are. With this being a remake and not a remaster, we're looking at the game being done from the ground up. Story being rewritten potentially, and all of the game itself completely changed. So I'm excited because we've seen some other great Star Wars games in the past few years. Um, but you know, we're getting near a huge fan base a huge fan base game. You know, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic has always been a staple in gaming history, and for them to attempt this, we've really got to hope that the company behind it is going to do it justice.
Right, which the developers that's making it is Aspyr. So they have a pretty good track record when it comes to remaking games and whatnot. But this one here is going to be first off a timed exclusive. It's coming to PC and PlayStation first, with Xbox coming potentially a year later. But Star Wars. Speaking of Aspyr, like they helped like with Civilization, Jedi Knights. I think they've helped reboot a couple other games, like remake some other ones. They helped port
Yeah,
over like the Star Wars Pod Racer when it came to like Switch, and I think it came to Xbox if I'm not mistaken too. That was a classic game from the N64. So like they have a lot of back tie-ins with the Star Wars games and bringing them to the forefront. But a full-on remake, I think this is taking them to the next level to put them on that pedestal. Like, hey, can you take a cult classic and make it even better? Can you take it to that next level? But I do agree with you though with the whole remake. It is got to be cautious on that because
yeah,
like you don't want them to change too much of a game that was already 100% successful. It's one of the greatest games. It's probably the best Star Wars game ever, and But I'm curious to see now with this coming out, is this going to be where it ties into canon? Because we all know Darth Revan and stuff like that is in
Yeah.
canon. So I would love to see this because this game, the original game, is not canon, but this may be its way to come back into canon. So maybe that's why they went the remake route. So if they have to change certain things that happened in the game,
Yeah.
but this game technically takes place like 4,000 years before any of the content that we really have. So
Yeah.
there's not much
It's
they
it's
would have
it's
to
the
change.
history of Jedi's. It's ancient history to what we're looking at in current canon, but we still touch upon these events in canon. In current canon, they talk about some of these characters. So we're definitely looking at, something that has to be done justice. You can't go killing off characters who aren't supposed to be dead or who are supposed to do certain events. So,
Right, exactly. So I
um,
mean, I'm super excited to see where this takes Star Wars too, man. Because I would love to see TV shows and movies in this time frame, because there's so much content. There's not like anything they have to abide by or go by, where like fans are going to get
yeah,
super upset. So I'm definitely looking forward to that for sure. But
yeah.
another game that we got to see gameplay from actually this time was Tiny Tina's Wonderlands.
Mhm.
I know you're really excited for this game.
Um,
I'm a huge Borderlands fan, and watching this gameplay has that Borderlands feel, but like it almost had like a playful but darker tone. It has like this weird kind of
well,
feel to it.
Tiny Tina, this isn't the first Tiny Tina we've seen.
No,
This is built off a part of one of the best DLCs that they've had.
right.
Um, Tiny Tina, there was a D&D that you went through in the Tiny Tina world, um, inside Borderlands 2, I think it was. So it was one of the highest rated DLCs, I believe, for for Gearbox. So for them to throw it back out there, I think they're trying to capitalize on the fact that this was a good DLC, it was a good story. Let's just do a whole spin-off on it. And it works. It looks interesting. I'd really love to play it. I just hope that it's more Borderlands 2 than it is Borderlands 3.
Yeah. Which is that's a game I still have to play through and beat. Because me being a big fan of Borderlands, like I loved one and two. I actually missed out on the
Yeah.
pre-sequel, but I do have it on the Handsome collection. But I do want to dive into three and beat that eventually. So hopefully we'll get somebody to play with here. But yeah, nonetheless, this game looks exciting. I think the release date was revealed as well. It's coming out March 25th of 2022. Man, the first quarter of 2022 just keeps getting stacked and stacked
Yeah.
and stacked. Like it's going to be insane how many good games are going to be coming out. Well, potentially good games, highly anticipated games for the early days of 2022. So definitely have a lot to look forward to.
No, I agree. And moving on to some other remasters versus remakes here, we've got Uncharted coming out for the PS5 now. Uh, what's your thoughts on this, Vic?
So it's getting the GTA 5 treatment. That's what I'm saying, because like it was already remastered for the PS4. Now it's getting remastered for the PS5,
Well,
and it's
that's the thing.
encompassing the entire collection into one game now.
Yeah.
So
And I think the thing you have to take into account with this remaster, they're probably doing this to build hype for a new Uncharted
and the TV show,
potential. Yeah, well, yes, the TV show, which honestly, uh, I don't know how many fans are really super excited about the TV show,
or
but
is it a movie? I can't
potentially,
remember.
uh, it might be a movie. But the Uncharted is, I think we're gonna see a new Uncharted game get announced after this, because we're definitely gonna be able to follow on the main character's
It's a
daughter,
movie. Sorry.
uh, and some of the other characters in the extended universe of Uncharted, if you will.
Hmm.
So I think this is their way of just putting out a way to, this is the old, now let's make a new. So I
Right.
think that's what we're going to be looking at here soon.
Yeah. So I mean, it's pretty cool to see. I enjoyed playing one, two, and three. With the remaster collection, I had bought four to play it, but I that's when I just completely fell off of PlayStation again. But I'll eventually hop back in because I got to play that. I got to play Ratchet and Clank. I got to play God of War. I got a bunch of games that I still got to catch up on.
Yeah. No, understood. And so, sticking in the world of remasters, Alan Wake, we finally saw some gameplay, as well as an official announcement. Alan Wake is being remastered for PS5. And to me this says, hey, we're getting ready for a new Alan Wake game. Let's get everyone hyped again. Get everyone back into it. Let's make a good version of the game so that they don't have to go back to a crappy version.
It's
Let's
not even that
fresh
bad. It holds
graphics,
up really
PS5.
well.
Oh,
That's the
oh yeah,
crazy
don't
part.
get me wrong. It does. But they want to make it even better,
Right.
hopefully, tune up the FPS so that it's better on console. They want to make it in 4K. They want to give these things that really showcase the PS5 so that people are like, man, that was a great game. The story was great and it looked amazing. And then they're ready to buy instantly into the new one
Right.
when it comes out. And this is me calling it. We're going to see an Alan Wake during early 2022, an announcement. Guarantee it.
Either that or they might hold off till E3, but I don't know if there's any early showcases um in the early like the first quarter.
Yeah.
E3 is
So
when the E3 is usually the start of all the gaming conferences and stuff like that. So and then the
yeah,
Game Awards is the end one.
we might see maybe a leak or something. A
I can
leak.
okay, yes, I believe it. A leak marketing, yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah,
So I
nonetheless,
honestly think that's what we're going for. But Um, we also saw that GTA 6, just kidding, GTA 5 Remastered is being delayed until 2022, but it's coming to the PS5. So now it's been across 3 generations of PlayStation. What's your thoughts?
I'm with the community, man. Nobody gives a fuck about GTA 5 anymore. Like on that
Yeah,
level, like they still play, they still do the modded lobbies and the role
but
playing
you can't
lobbies and
mod it on
stuff
the
like.
console. It's all PC anymore if you want to do any of the modding or any one of the player generated content.
Right. So I'm with the community, man. Where's GTA 6? Can we get a teaser? Can we get just like a title screen like GTA 6 is coming or we're working on GTA 6? Like can we get something? Like that's
Yeah,
where I'm at with it. Like I'm not a huge GTA fan to begin with because I just don't play those games. It's just not my cup of tea. But
yeah,
we need to see GTA 6 for the gaming community. The hype is there. You better do something
oh
before
yeah,
that hype goes,
and
all right, we don't care no more.
and I don't think that's ever going to happen because look at, from GTA 4 to GTA 5, we dealt with quite a few years where we were like, oh, DLC, DLC. I see that GTA 6 is coming, but then on the other side of what I'm thinking, they're making so much money off of 5, the development's probably not moving very quickly, and they've got to make this game better than GTA 5.
Right.
So, because they're going to want to discontinue GTA 5 servers and move to GTA 6, or maybe, we're going to never see another GTA and it's just going to be GTA Online, the new version, the new version, the new version.
Right.
What are we going to get? GTA, the MMO.
Well, I think they said that they're shutting down the servers for PS3 and Xbox 360 for
Yeah,
GTA 5 at the end of the year. I think it's I'm looking it up here. December 16th, 2021 is that's when the servers go offline for
yeah,
two-year old generation or 2 generation old now consoles. So I think it's just it's time to move on, man. I know you're trying to milk the fucking cow as much as you can, but eventually
and
it's going
and
to run
and
dry.
they're making tons of money, and that's the thing. They're making so much money still. So I don't think they're going to move on anytime soon, but with the community agree. We're very very disappointed in the fact that we're not getting GTA 6. But then again, are we going to see a GTA 6 announcement at the PlayStation conference, or are we going to see it at a bigger conference? You think?
I think we'll see it at a bigger conference.
Exactly. So to be disappointed that we didn't see GTA 6 at the PlayStation conference is kind of silly to me a little bit, just because why would they announce it there?
We
It's
we
going to be
could
on every console. It's PC.
we could see it at the Game Awards show at the end of
Oh
this
yeah,
year, maybe potentially an
good.
announcement to make up for their lack of not having GTA 5 next gen edition ready for this year because it was supposed to come out this year.
Yeah. So moving on here, though, staying in the world of cars, Gran Turismo 7 just got announced. Release date is March 22nd, 2022. It's another 2022 game, but that's to be expected at this point. We're not really going to get announcements for, hey, holiday season this year, because holiday season this year is
They're gonna
only
pull a
a month
Bethesda
away.
on us.
Is a month away, is a month and a half away. So,
That's a Bethesda strategy. Here's Fallout
yeah,
4, guys. Guess what? It's coming out next
yeah,
month.
exactly.
Wait,
So,
what? That's exactly how that went. But
no, I
to end
agree.
out the PlayStation conference, Ghostwire Tokyo, it looked cool. I love the trailer and all that stuff. This game still has me like, what the fuck, and then by the end of their showcase of that game, still at what the fuck, because still no release date, and I'm really confused because this game I thought was supposed to be out by the end of this year. So I mean, given Deathloop was delayed until just a couple days ago last week, my guess is Ghostwire Tokyo will probably get pushed to quarter 1 of 2022, or they may put it out to the summertime. What's your thoughts on this game though? Now that we got to see some more gameplay from
Um, Most of the gameplay was repeats of gameplay we've already seen. It was just to remind us that the game is actually still supposed to come out at some point.
it.
But I am definitely of the mindset that the Ghostwire Tokyo excites me. I'm excited for this game. This is the style of game that I love. It's an action, it's a thriller, it's story driven, and it's Japanese yokai. I think that's cool. I like reading Japanese yokai stories because they're always just so, you know, they're so different from Western style horror sometimes.
Mhm.
So I'm really excited for this game, but I'm really sad to see yet again that there's no release date. But I don't have a PS5, so I can't play it anyway.
As a lot of people are, so no big deal, right?
So yeah, exactly. If you want a PS5 right now, you can get it online for $1,000, but that's a little bit much.
Right. And I mean, like you said, I'm definitely excited for this game just because of it's being made by Tingle Gameworks, and
Yeah.
their previous two games, Evil Within 2, two really good horror games, and that was more, I guess, like Western horror. Now we're about to see like the Asian, especially with the Japan horror stuff, because like the yokai and whatnot. So we can see a lot of great stuff coming out of this, and just the visual of the game looks pretty cool because it's set in like that cyberpunk kind of world in a way. So I mean, hopefully this game doesn't flunder like the rest of the cyberpunk era games, because they all been pretty like either here or there. So
And we just gotta hope that this game is good because it's definitely going to Bethesda Studios or Bethesda Softworks, who is the publisher of the game, definitely publishes a very specific style of game, and that is either a very run and gun or a very RPG heavy RPG game. So I'm excited for a game that's going to be hopefully heavy RPG, this sort of horror RPG,
mhm.
picture Skyrim hopefully, but with guns and better magic and horror. Just unsurmountable horror. That's my hope.
Right. So yeah, nonetheless, overall, I thought this PlayStation showcase was actually one of their best ones. Was it better than Xbox's showcase recently? Yes, but was it better than Microsoft's E3 conference? I would still say no. I think Microsoft still has the best conference of the year so far. What's your take on this conference?
Um so I always get more excited by PlayStation than I do with a lot of the Microsoft conferences. Lately I've been kind of bored with the Microsoft conferences because they're not saving, they're always showing their hand before the conference. So we always kind of know what's coming into it. So there's no hype, no excitement. But when I get to the PlayStation conference, everything's been incommunicado. There's no spoiling usually. And you get there and they're like, here's it, here's this. Oh look, Spider-Man with Venom in it. And you're like, holy crap, I'm excited.
Right.
Like I always have issues with Microsoft. Like, yeah, we know what we're about to get. Microsoft's like, hey guys, check out our conference. We're gonna have this, this, and this. And you're like, awesome, yeah,
And
I'm
then kind
excited. And then there's no surprise. So I feel like yes, I'm excited that Microsoft is always keeping us informed, but it's I would rather have the game than just you show me more stuff that you've already told me about.
right. Yeah, most certainly. So you would think that this conference was pretty good then for PlayStation?
Well, I thought this was an amazing PlayStation conference. It definitely didn't feel like they didn't have content.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
So
Until they got to that end of the thing where they sat down, they started talking too much, and we were like,
yeah,
you went from really good showcase to what the fuck are you doing showcase?
then again, every showcase has that. Every showcase has that. Hell, we're even sitting here right now, and we're in a podcast, so we're just sitting here and blabbing back and forth about what we saw when people could just
Yeah.
go out there and watch it.
Yeah.
So it happens in every conference, but the way they do it is better than every other conference because they don't do it while we're watching content. They're not like, here's a game, blah 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 blah. Here's a game. They're like game, 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 and you're like, and your face is already melted off at this point, and they're like, okay, let's slow it down and chill you out for a minute.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the games coming out. You're like, all right, whatever, have a good one, guys. And then you can turn off the conference. You're not forced to listen to them talk. You're like, the last 15 minutes is them just bullshitting. Thanks, click.
Right, that's exactly what happened. But
So
yeah. So conference overall, I thought we both think it was great. But onto some more PlayStation news. They did buy out their third studio this year, and they bought out Fire Sprite. This game, I can't. Apparently, they're working on a new AAA narrative adventure game. So I mean, PlayStation's known for their storytelling, their storytelling games, whether it's action adventure or shooting like shooter games or whatever it is. It's always cool. So what's your take on this new acquisition for them?
I think it's a garbage acquisition. I think this is a straight up pile of steaming shit that they acquired here. We're looking at a game studio that released a really uneventful, crappy game and the Playroom for PlayStation. I think, and this is their way of just acquiring the technology and then dumping all of the people in it.
Right.
I think at this point they're like, hey, these guys are like the people who were really helpful on our PlayStation VR. Let's buy their studio and just drop them like a sack of shit and then move on with whatever they had. Because they bought a studio that only had two games, the Playroom, which was PlayStation VR, one of the first games to come out with PSVR, and then they had the Persistence, which was a game that was released in 2018 with pretty horrible reviews on a lot of different sites. For example, Steam, it's got a mixed review, and for something to have a mixed review usually means it's probably a pretty bad game. And it's a company that was like, hey, we're gonna make a PlayStation game, but then we want to export it to all these other gaming locations, all these other gaming platforms that also have VR. But then we're not going to test it with any VR equipment. We're not going to work with any VR equipment. So if PlayStation is solely looking to make games with this studio for PlayStation, we're looking at a good acquisition. But if they're deciding to buy this studio and then maybe make games off of Windows, off of Xbox, off of Switch, off of PlayStation, it's a bad acquisition. This company makes poor ports, it seems. So the
Mhm.
only thing it's good for is PSVR.
Right. So maybe this is just adding to their catalog to up their PlayStation VR, because I definitely agree. Like most of their games that they came out with were pretty garbage. It seems like it nothing neither one of them really make me go, ooh, I want to try it, or ooh, I want to play it. So it's just like, but I'm always down to like give somebody a second chance, especially if they're able to
Yeah,
get funding from Sony then to make a much better game, a triple A title game as well at that. So we'll see, man. We'll definitely follow this story and see how this definitely pans out for sure. But
yeah.
sticking along the lines of, go ahead.
Go, no, you're good.
Okay, yeah, just sticking along the lines of PlayStation. Apparently, they leaked "Destroy All Humans 2" reprobed before the official announcement that happened last week. So, were you much of a fan of "Destroy All Humans" back in the day?
Oh, it was so much fun. I loved Destroy All Humans. It was one of my favorite games because it was one of those early sandbox games where um you pretty much just had a wrecking ball and you did what you wanted to do. So it was kind of like Katami I think is the game where you run around with a giant ball and roll over all of the city.
I don't remember that one.
Which is another PlayStation game. Um, I can't remember exactly what the title is, but it definitely reminded me of one of those games where you just like to destroy shit and you just like to play the bad guy or the anti-hero. Because this
Right,
character is clearly an anti-hero. He's looking to destroy all humans, but yet he still works with humans and he's against evil. And so
right.
like, is he really the bad guy or are you just like having fun?
Right. Yeah,
But
back in
no,
the
I'm
day, like
excited.
when these games came out, like there was only like two sandbox games that were like made you have the play the anti-hero. It was this one and then Mercenaries. Remember that game? Mercenaries like one
Yeah.
and two. Like those games like gave you open go do whatever you wanted to do and then go fuck shit up. That's really what that was. So, but nonetheless, this game's coming to all consoles. So Xbox, PlayStation, and PC. It's coming out officially in 2022. No exact date yet. So just adding to the list of 2022 games. So nonetheless, it'd be pretty cool to see. But
Oh, and the title of the game is Katamari Damacy, which is Katama Damacy, which is you roll around a giant ball and you pretty much destroy cities. And I love that. I'm confused though why they're remaking a game from 2009 though.
well, they just remade the first one not too long ago, so now they're remaking the second one. Maybe a
The
new
third
one's.
one's on the way.
Oh, yeah, like we're following that trend. Like remake all your old games, so you get build up all this hype, catch all these people up that missed out on a cult classic. I guess this is kind of like a cult classic because everybody knows this game. And here you go. Here's a new one, but go play the old one first. So it's a
Yeah.
cash grab.
No, I agree. And so talking about games here in the East, China. China's been a hot button topic we've been talking about here for months now. China has finally decided that all new games are banned. They're banning all new games in China because they believe that video games are literally going to lead to the destruction of the Chinese country. What are your thoughts, Vic?
Yeah, so this is just feeling the like the fire, man. Like how you go from limiting kids to playing games to 3 hours a week to now this is that's pretty expensive. Like we talked about the impact that it's going to have on the gaming industry, like banning all new game releases in China. Like China makes up a large portion of the gaming industry, like player base, and you're about to just say nope, they don't get it. So like that's going to destroy the like that's going to really mess with the economy, like the gaming economy, and like it could actually mess up the China economy without them even realizing what the repercussions are going to come from this.
Oh
And then
yeah, and
and it just makes me
go ahead.
wonder, like, will this kind of stuff like make people want to leave China even more? Like they're already dealing with the nonsense that's going over in China. That's for a different topic, different day. But like it just makes me like like if this was happening to me, I'd be like, peace. I couldn't like not go without games. Like that's just
Well, and
that's
that's the thing. These people don't really get much news or much information in China unless they are, on a VPN breaking the law. And so many Chinese people, this is probably not going to affect them very much. But like to give you an idea of the amount of revenue we're looking at here, China makes up about $32 billion in mobile game revenue alone.
that's just
So
mobile gaming. That's not including
that's mobile
console or
gaming
PC.
alone. That is the revenue projected for this year alone in China. So we're talking billions of dollars. Now, all these new games that may be coming out, mobile or otherwise, that money is not gonna, it's just, there's no money now. So is it really worth it to the Chinese economy when they can't tax these games anymore? They've already got, developers like Blizzard on a leash. Literally, they're like, do this, and Blizzard's like, yes, yes, master, and they'll do whatever they're told. So, why am I worried that Western gaming culture is going to lead to the fall of China? I don't know why they're worried, because they have a lot of controls over the world already. But maybe it really is causing this sort of shut-in neat culture that happens in Japan.
Right. Yeah, so
'Cause
again, we'll just continue to follow this story though. This is ever progressing. Like this is keeps getting worse and worse over the week. So hopefully things turn back to normal for all the Chinese citizens because I feel terribly bad for them because one last thought is why are they banning video games but not movies and TV shows?
Well, they
There's
already control what movies and TV shows you can see,
oh there
whereas
you go.
gaming is a little different. They have a thriving development for movies and TV shows, whereas gaming, they're less vibrant.
Right. So yeah,
So,
it's definitely very curious to see this. But on to some other sad news, I guess per se. Dying Light 2 has been delayed until 2022. We're just adding to the list, day by day,
well,
game by game.
and let's be honest, after watching the trailer for Dying Light 2, like it looked good, but it looked clunky. It looked clunky for an official trailer to me. It didn't feel flushed out enough because like we know Dying Light 1, that game was unoptimized at times, it felt like.
Mhm.
So I'm definitely excited to see that it's getting pushed back because that hopefully means that they're going to take a little more time because I didn't really care much for the trailer. It looked like it was still the same clunky game that we had. So
Right. It's because of their
What are your
parkour.
thoughts?
Yeah, it's because of their parkour system. Like they want to be a zombie game, but they also don't want to be a parkour game. But then they want to be a storytelling game. They're trying to be
Yeah,
all these different components, and I don't think they found a way to blend it well. So they're parkour. That's one of their things that they love to do. But that's the clunky part. When I gotta run, it looks like it's all staged. Like when I get to a point, I go into an animation. When I get to the bar or the ledge, it goes into another animation. Like the
yeah,
animations aren't smooth. That's where the
yeah.
clunkiness
Well,
looks
and
and it feels from.
you and me talked about this 2 weeks ago when we talked about the Dying Light 2 trailer that actually got revealed. I said the guy literally jumps on the wall and it looks like he's a goddamn fucking Spider-Man because he's like stuck and then goes. And you're like, that's not how physics works, my man. Like, you actually, if you're going to kick off a wall, you're there for very, 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 very little time. And this guy's just like, I'm stuck
I'm
to the
stuck.
wall.
And let me make a decision.
Yeah, dude's like suction cup man over here. And so I'm definitely disappointed with the trailer, and I think maybe they realized that they need a little more time.
Right. They probably got enough feedback. They were like,
And
all right, yeah, we need to make some changes. But this is
if
all
they're
in
trying to go ahead.
good.
All
This
right. Yeah.
I still think this is all part of like the whole COVID thing too, like working from home and the rise of the COVID cases and whatnot. I still think COVID is having a major impact.
Oh yeah, 100%. But then again, the gaming industry has also been one of the number one taxed communities in the world to begin with for work labor. They're already working, time and a half weeks. Sometimes people are working 60, 80-hour weeks just to meet deadlines. And so now you're also including all of this, health concerns, working from home, distractions. These people sometimes don't get to see their families as game developers because gaming development is such a cutthroat industry and you're replaceable. So I definitely agree. Maybe that's the issue. They're just so understaffed because of COVID. They're not meeting marks that they were expecting to meet.
Right.
Who knows?
And
But
I'm always down for delays. I mean, I think it's always going to benefit the game. Like you say it all the
and
time. Just make sure it's polished before it comes out because if it comes out
and
and
I
it's shitty, it's too late.
well, it was going to be coming against like Call of Duty and Battlefield 2042. We're
Well,
looking at this hot button slot time, at this time slot where you're like, if I release a game during this time, doesn't matter what genre I'm in, I'm competing against these games because they take up one of the largest player bases. So
right.
do I really want to try and compete with Call of Duty Vanguard and Battlefield 2042?
And
Now
Halo.
that we know Battlefield 2042 has also been moved back closer to the Dying Light 2 release. And that brings us to our next topic here. Battlefield 2042 also just got delayed until November 19th, 2021. We're still getting it this year, which if it was next year, it would be an outrage. But we're getting a delay. Why? I don't think they said really, but we're at this point looking at it's closer to Call of Duty.
It's a 2 weeks after Call of Duty. I think Call
Yeah.
of Duty's the fifth.
Oh,
So no, and then 2 weeks later you get Battlefield. So I think they're just like, all right, Call of Duty, you go first, go fuck up first, so we can
yeah,
come in and save the
yeah. Now
day.
I'm waiting for Call of Duty to move their release date back because they're like, yeah, now we ain't trying to flop first. You flop first, and then we'll flop last.
Yeah, right. And then it's Halo's
So
turn to come out in December. So
yeah, so we're looking at a very thick time slot for a lot of developers. So, when we're saying, these games are getting pushed back until 2022, is it really that bad of an idea? Because we're going to be
but
so engrossed with Call of Duty,
right.
Halo, and Battlefield.
But
So,
but what do I keep saying about 2022? It is completely stacked with games. Now you got to find a good time
but
slot to put
but
this
but
in.
that's the thing. You're playing a story game versus a time sync game because Call of Duty, let's be honest, how many people play it for the story? Way less than people play it for
The
the
multiplayer.
actual multiplayer. You didn't beat Black Ops, did you? Cold War?
I tried until it
Okay.
kept crashing
Okay.
every 10 seconds. So I said, fuck
Yeah.
it.
So you quit, and a ton of other people felt the same way, and some people just didn't play it. Hell, I beat Call of Duty Cold War before you did, and I bought it like 6 months later. No, so I'm definitely thinking a lot of these games are getting moved back for that reason. But might as well here talk about COD since we're on the topic. COD 2022. Rumors are circulating now that because people hate World War II so much, and that we hate the Cold War so much. We need a new thing that's not future, not past. Let's go with present. And what better than the drug war?
Right. So this is apparently supposed to be Modern Warfare 2, not the original Modern Warfare 2, new Modern
Yeah,
Warfare 2. Terrible naming schemes here, but it's
yeah,
about the drug cartel. So I'm a huge Modern Warfare era games. Like I just feel like it's the most relatable. There's a lot like endless amount of like equipment and guns and opportunities and stories to tell. Like it doesn't even got to be real. Like there's just so much content you can do in this era, and I was a huge fan of Modern Warfare 2019. That game was to me flawless. Multiplayer was fun. That was when they introduced Warzone. Warzone was a lot of fun. Um, like even like the story and stuff like that was great. Like that was one of the most like realistic stories like in a FPS shooters that I had to play. Like when I had to clear a house, it wasn't like the old school Call of Duties where you can just run in there, throw stun grenades. You had to be careful who you were shooting. There could be babies and kids and women, and it just you had to pay
yeah.
attention to who you were shooting, and you were lined up with
It
your
was an
with your
active
with
war
your
zone.
boys. So yeah, it was legit. It was legitimately telling a real life story, and how it was being over there in the Middle East. So I was
Yeah.
just like, okay, well, damn, this
So
shit. Collateral damage, exactly. That's Bruno's favorite thing to do. It's fucking collateral damage.
and and yeah, so I'm excited because this is a untouched territory in my opinion, is this whole sort of new scope of war. Because if we talk about it in a serious sense, Mexico is riddled with drug cartels and crooked officials and crooked police and military. Two separate cartels have each purchased the support of one of the major branches of Mexico. We've got one has the army's backing and the other one has the military's back, or the police's backing. So we've got police shooting military in Mexico for drug cartels.
Yeah.
So,
So
you know,
I think this could be turned out really well.
yeah, even if the story isn't remotely true, it could be completely false and just super fun.
Right. So I mean, and again, it's back to Infinity Ward. So to me, I don't think they've ever made a bad Call of Duty, in my eyes.
No, and
COD 4,
I've
Modern
I've
Warfare
always
2,
loved
Modern
them.
Warfare 3, Ghost, and what was after Ghost? Okay, Infinite Warfare, whatever it was. That was probably their worst one that they've made, but that one was actually
It was
tolerable.
experimental.
Like that was
Yeah,
the one where they were jumping around like the jetpacks, like Advanced Warfare and Black Ops 4 or 3, whatever game it was that
yeah,
had the jumping around bullshit. But that one had to me the most fluid jumping system that made sense. But Infinity Ward is my go-to Call of Duty developer, so super excited for that one. But granted, we do got Vanguard coming out here right around the corner. So, but sticking on the Call of Duty like just topic here. Call of Duty's bans from like Warzone or Cold War or Modern Warfare is carrying over to Vanguard. It's already been showing up. People who've been trying to play the beta, it pops up. Sorry, you've been banned. Well, damn.
yeah,
Sucks to
yeah,
suck, doesn't it? Shouldn't have did it.
yeah. And this is one of the best parts. It's hardware banning. Hardware bans are amazing. What it is so instead of having a ban based off of your username or your account, we look at your computer and we can say, yeah, I know that's you. Doesn't matter what IP you're coming from, doesn't matter what country you're coming from, doesn't matter if you're on VPN. I banned your hardware, the stuff you play on. Unless you buy a new computer, you can't play.
Right. And who wants to go spend thousands of dollars or you like buying a new system? Impossible. Getting a graphics card, impossible. So it's just like,
Yeah.
good luck, buddy.
And and the hardware ban carries over onto consoles, I believe, too. So
Hmm.
at this point, it's what we need right now. We
Yep.
need more hardware banning games. We need people to say, "Hey, we banned your hardware, not your account, your hardware." And yes, I get there are going to be fringe cases where people are going to be like, "Oh, I've been improperly banned. I wasn't doing this. They won't repeal my case." I'm sorry, but you know what? At the same time, we have more people ruining games because they're actually having issues.
Right. Yeah. So I mean,
So,
that's
and
I think that's big news. Big news.
yeah, big news, and it's awesome news because it means if you're convicted, or yeah, convicted, if you're caught cheating and convicted by the anti-cheat system, you're done. You're done. So I'm super excited.
Right,
But
because honestly, that's what deterred me from playing Call of Duty. Me and you used to play Warzone all the time when I got
yeah,
you into playing Warzone, and now it's just like I don't even want to play. When I was watching
yeah,
people play, I'm like I don't even want to play that game anymore because like running into cheaters and just the stupid shit that happens in the game right now. It's just
yeah.
not there.
The game is built off of super sweaty people, and I don't carry a towel.
Right. So moving
So
on here with the whole hardware thing, this one kind of blew my mind and it makes me scratch my head too at the same time. Nintendo has enabled through an update the Bluetooth audio in Switch after 5 years. Why did they wait this long?
so it could be a number of reasons. I didn't really look too much into this. So they may have released the device with audio enabled, like Bluetooth enabled audio and such, so that you could really use these devices. But they were like, we're not going to use, we're using pre-built hardware or whatever, and we don't want to enable this feature. We didn't want to put it in yet. We didn't want to support third party stuff like that because they don't have Bluetooth enabled audio right now. They don't make anything that's Bluetooth enabled audio. So why support a device that they're not selling peripherals for? Why enable this and then have to deal with it breaking and then having to refurb consoles and things like that when they can just say it was never there. We never had it, and then they just enable it later and say, "Hey, look what we did. Now you can do this."
Right. Yeah, I was curious because like the fact that this game was meant to be like played on the go, also at home, on the couch. Yeah, you can plug in a headphone, I guess. But most people have wireless headsets. Granted, this one's been giving me the worst issues that you can possibly have. I didn't have no issues with my Turtle Beach headset, but
Yeah,
Bluetooth, like wireless headphones, is just that's the way of the future. That's where most things are going. Everything's becoming wireless, wireless charging,
yeah.
wireless
It's just
headphones. It's
convenient.
just yeah. So it
It's
just
just convenient.
yeah, so I'm just really just head scratching on why like that has been in there for 5 years, and they were just like, yeah, we don't need to turn it on, but we're gonna turn it on now. Like, I wonder what made them not turn it on to begin with, but then
Maybe they
why to
have new
do it now?
peripherals coming.
Yeah, I guess, but it's
So
just like it's definitely confusing.
yeah, I agree. So I'm definitely happy to hear this, but it kind of feels like the Tesla of consoles. We built it with all these features, but it's going to cost extra to enable them, or we'll enable them
Well,
later.
because there for a while you could buy a thing that can plug into the USB-C that enabled Bluetooth, but it was Bluetooth
Yeah,
to that adapter, so it wasn't the Bluetooth thing that was directly to the console. So like there was a
yeah,
workaround if people really wanted it, but like now you don't have to buy that. You could just connect it.
yeah, yeah. And I think Nintendo sees it as a lost opportunity, and they're trying to retcon that mistake.
Yeah, so we'll see how that goes. But two more topics here before we close it out with our deep freeze moment. Doki V, that was a game that we seen a while back. This one has apparently pivoted from being an MMORPG originally to now being an open world action adventure. This is that like Pokemon looking kind of game per se. What's your take on this? Like, would you have preferred an MMORPG, or are you looking like for this open world action
So, do
adventure?
you know who Pearl Abyss is? I
Yes.
don't know if you follow. Okay, so do you know the other games Pearl Abyss makes?
Uh, Not off the top of
If
my
you
head.
don't, that's okay. So Pearl Abyss is a
Oh,
Korean
okay.
company
Yeah.
that makes Black
Black
Desert,
Desert.
which
Yeah.
was one of the most well anticipated MMOs of all time. It has bigger hype than like Open World. It had bigger hype than a lot of other these new MMOs that are WoW killers or Final Fantasy. Even Final Fantasy, it had a really big hype train compared to Final Fantasy. And it honestly, it fell on its side. Black Desert was a pay to win game. It was a pay to win MMO. You paid once to play. You didn't have to pay over time, but you had to pay to get anywhere in the game, like to activate all these extra features, to get
Mm,
double bag slots, to get all these other crazy things that actually made the game playable. You had to pay
right.
like $15 a month, or you had to make enough in game because you couldn't also to prevent like in-game trading and all this other stuff. You couldn't trade stuff to your friends. You couldn't give stuff away. This was to cut down outside game transact. The game really got limited because of the fact that it was an MMO.
Mhm.
They wanted to remove a lot of features So it kind of felt like it was very limiting. So if this was another MMO made by Pearl Abyss, I could definitely see it being a flop because they've already got Black Desert. Now they're releasing another MMO. So now they're competing against their own game. So
Right.
why would you want to compete against your own game? So I'm thinking at this point they're like, what are other players going to really want to do in the open MMO? You know, now we've got to write in AI for the player and their allies around them that are always fighting. Let's just make it a single player game and we write in the AI against an AI. So now you don't have to deal with another player giving commands or anything like that. And also then we don't have to compete against ourselves.
Right.
Why
Wait,
make
what?
an MMO game when we can just give them the MMO without the MMO?
Right. And given that this is supposed to be like a Pokemon competitor, I guess per se, because this is a creature collecting like adventure game.
Kind of.
So like
It's I
for that
wouldn't
to
say it's directly into a competitor for Pokemon, because there are
well,
other games that are, traditionally a competitor to the Pokemon
well,
style.
this is being legitimately described from like their description is creature collecting open world action adventure that is currently
Yeah,
being developed by Pearl Abyss, blah blah blah. But so like it's in comparison to Pokemon in a different way. It's probably going to take a whole different take
yeah.
on collecting creatures and stuff, just like Digimon did, kind of. But I don't think this could work out as an MMORPG. Like, you imagine if Pokemon was an MMORPG, like, they'd be kind of, I don't know, it'd be cool in a way, but kind of difficult to make. Like you said, it'd be definitely a lot going on. I don't think it would
I don't know.
help with the story
I
and stuff
think
like that.
I think Pokemon might work out really well as an MMO because you don't have all this AI
I guess we
for
technically do
player.
got one. Pokemon Go is
You
an
know,
MMORPG.
yeah. So it's I think Pokemon as an MMO may work, but this one may not because uh, or if it's a true critter on Critter Violence. This is you get to hit the critters and the critters hit the critters and the critters hit you.
Right. It's
So
all around
it's
warfare.
it's a mosh pit. It's sort of like you build a squad of people and you and that squad fight together. So you run around
Shotguns.
punching people. I believe it's like you get melee weapons, but I believe there are projectile based weapons. So
Right. We don't
it
know too much yet about the game. It's just that
yeah, we
they
just saw
apparently
gameplay.
trans. Yeah, we saw some gameplay, and then the news broke that originally in early development it was an MMORPG, and then they switched it to an open world action adventure game. So that's pretty cool. But moving on to shotguns, Bruno. We do got Splitgate, that everybody knows. Bruno loves Splitgate. Our community over at the Chill Zone loves playing it as well. We all know it's the Halo Portal clone, more or less. And they're adding Forge mode, and they're hyping it up, and they're saying it's going to come out even before Halo Infinite's Forge mode that was recently delayed. What is your take on this? Because I decided to laugh when I saw it. It's like this is just like a slap in the
So
face.
I think at this point, Splitgate is trying to put on the big boy pants and compete with a AAA game because they know Halo is probably going to flop right now, and so they're trying to get ahead of this and say, "Hey, we are really the Halo you're looking for," and they're going to try and capture that player base from Halo Infinite. That's like, I'm mad. I don't. Halo Infinite flopped. I'm upset, and they'll be like, "Come to Splitgate. We're the better Halo," and I can see it now. I'm thinking the issue at hand is they're like, we see an opening. If we strike while the iron is hot, we could steal a bunch of people from Halo Infinite and wow, now we could be a AAA studio.
Right. Yeah. Sorry. I thought that was pretty funny and just a good topic to end off our gaming
Yeah.
topics with. So definitely, it's pretty cool. I thought it was hilarious, but nonetheless, Splitgate's a hot game right now. Halo is on that seesaw. What's going on with it? So only time will tell. But
Only time will tell.
right. So let's end our podcast with our deep freeze moment of the week. What are three games you were so hyped to play but then ended up flopping? Let me start with you, Roger. What's your first
Um,
one?
so back in the days of WoW, I'll use an expansion for an example. Um, for me, it was WoW Cataclysm. For me, I was hyped up. The
Remember that
world
one?
was being changed. Everything I knew and loved, it was being rewritten. I loved WoW. I was a huge avid fan at the time, and then Cataclysm just felt like there was a missing like the labor of love was gone. They knew where they were. They knew they didn't have any competition, and they knew they could produce garbage and hand it to me for money. and I would
Mhm.
still buy it because I'm a diehard fan. And that to me was one of the first moments where I went, "Wow, I'm disappointed with this. I don't think I want to do this." And so I quit. That's why I quit WoW. And then they followed up with Pandaria, and I was glad I quit. But one of the second ones for me
You
was
want to go back and
Final Fantasy.
forth? Must say, do you want to go back
Yeah,
and
sure.
forth?
Yeah,
All
go
right.
for it.
Okay, we'll do a round robin so we don't like take each other's things like right away. Then we got to think of all new ones. I'm gonna start off my first one here. One of the most recent titles I would say is Cyberpunk. Man, honestly, Cyberpunk, as the anybody who's been following the podcast since the very beginning, since the very first episode, we started this podcast before the game came out, and we were like, man, can't wait to get the consoles, can't wait to get the game. This is going to be the best game ever. Blah blah blah. Game comes out, and it never met expectations. Like the game was
Yeah,
fun, but seemed all over the place, and it was glitchy and buggy and just not complete, and then just all chaos with that game.
yeah.
And I'm super excited to get back into it nonetheless, because I'm ready for the next gen upgrade and all that stuff when it does come out. But
I'm ready for them to fix it.
right when that game is fixed, it could re-elevate to where it should be, game
Oh, it could
status wise.
become Game of the Year on a new one on a new
Right.
year.
Next year. So I would say that was definitely one of my most flopped games that I was never excited for a game for 8 years long to end up with like nothing in the end. I've never had a game that I had to wait that long for to end up with nothing. So,
Yeah,
what's your second one?
mine would have to be probably Final Fantasy 15. Um,
Okay.
So I'm a huge Final Fantasy nerd. I love Final Fantasy. From the first game that I ever found out about Final Fantasy, I've wanted to play old, new games, side games, games on left, games on right. I've played all these Final Fantasy games. I've loved them. 10 was one of my favorites. I love 10-2. I played 13. Even 13 I was like, wow, this story is really weird. And I tried to play Final Fantasy 13-2. And then I played part 3 and I was like, yeah, these are great. And I saw Final Fantasy 15. It's supposed to be the big next cinematic thing to come out. And just the story was all over the place. There were so many zones that you just never went to because the game was like, hey, you go from A to B to C to D. And you're like, what about that area 3 miles that way? And they're like, we don't have anything there. You can go play there if you want, but there's nothing really there other than a side mission that's like 10 levels after you beat the final story when you can't do it anymore. And it's like, okay. Like there was so much to it. I think the story fell short. There was just not enough story. The story was all over the place. It was just upsetting. It was a flop in my opinion.
Yeah, I would say it was.
So, what about you?
My second one, I would probably have to give to the game called Anthem. This game was also another one that was super hyped up, looked fantastic, looked like it was just like the next the next big thing coming out of EA. And EA just completely flopped again on this one. And because this game like made you want to feel like Iron Man, but like play with your team, and everybody had like different
Yeah,
exosuits or whatever they were called in the game, and the story was supposed to be this big ambitious like game because it's in this big universe. The like you were on a different planet and stuff like that, and then like it flopped hard. There was like the story was awful. There was no post
yeah,
game content. Like the it had glitches with the servers and just staying online and just all the issues that dealt with that game completely brought the game down in like a month. This game has no revival. They closed all the development on it. There's no more support on it. And if I'm not mistaken, I think they're shutting down the servers here soon. So this is one of the biggest all time flops.
yeah.
But
No, it's a pretty big flop. And so, talking about flops here, in my opinion, but with a revival, No Man's Sky. I watched for me. I didn't play it personally because I saw the writing on the wall. My friend at the time was so hyped for this game. He doesn't pre-purchase games. He pre-purchased this. He's like looking at all the videos, looking at all the clips. Like the moment when they showed their first printing of one of the CDs, and they're like, "This is it right here. This is the copy of the game." My friend's like so excited, and he gets it and he installs it, and he's like, "Wow, there's nothing to this. This game is horrible. It's a single player game that I was promised so much more." And don't get me wrong, they've gone back, they've tried to make amends and make the game better, and supposedly it's good. But at this point, it's missed its mark for me. There's so many other better versions of like sandbox games to me.
Hmm.
I'm not looking for another life outside of this one for a sandbox game. Like,
Right. Yeah. No Man's Sky, man. I have two copies of it. One for the PS4 because it was a PlayStation exclusive. It was never supposed to come to any other console or PC, or if I think at that point. And
yeah,
I also have it on Xbox as well because this game was one of those games I was like, yo, this game looks super cool. Like it's space exploration, like survival. Like it looked like a next level of like Minecraft per se. Like you could,
yeah,
but it was missing like all of the mechanics that Minecraft has, like crafting, base building, like true survival shit, like having
yeah,
fun with friends. Like it missed that component of the game. Like, it was like a solo game. That's it. And then they added like you can see where your friends have been. You can see their like little ghost orb, and I'm like, that's not what we want. And granted, yeah, like you said, this game is update after update. It has became the game it is today, and it's like it has everything. Do whatever you
yeah,
want. And they keep updating. The support for that game is still there. Like they just we talked about it I think 2 episodes ago. The Frontiers update. Like they keep adding big updates. They're not like minor little. Here's a new skin or not cyberpunk updates. Where like we know the game's shitty, but here's a new. You can make him look cooler. New car. Like there's significant updates to No Man's Sky. So yeah, that
yeah.
game was a huge flop, but the redemption arc is one of the most incredible stories to see in the gaming industry.